second segment here in the metropolis of Blaisdell, New York, in the home of Victory One Wrestling. And one of the more curious questions about pro wrestling that I find is that tell me about your first match. How were you feeling? What was going through your mind? Why don't we start over here with Bud?
Well, we did I had a few matches like for TV tapings, but my first match for like in front of a live audience was against a guy called the Mercenary. He's a pretty tough guy, but actually I was my adrenaline was going pretty high because it was my birthday, so that made it a little special too. But it actually went pretty quickly. I got some quick punches in on him. Get a duck under, get behind him, rolled him up, and got a pin, got out of there.
Listen, Bud Good is the greatest puncher in Victory One Wrestling, probably in independent wrestling right now, and that's not a joke. I would. This man knows how to throw a punch
Pretty good, yeah.
and make the crowd get into it. He was great. He was so much fun. The crowd just gets out there. He does this little jump in the ring to start the match when they announce his name, and the crowd just goes nuts.
Southpaw.
How about you?
My first match was back in December in Fremont, Ohio, actually, against Blackjack Phoenix. And
he's waiting to talk afterwards, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, he'll review that very honestly. But, before I was super nervous. I was actually he was actually meant to wrestle someone else, but they couldn't make it, so I ended up essentially filling in almost. But I was like super nervous because I didn't know till the day of. And best story ever is Blackjack will agree. We're waiting to go out, and
Oh no!
there's a little step in a little concert venue they run, and my manager, Professor Ken Pernicus,
Thank you.
Didn't see it behind the curtain and tripped out through the curtain on pretty much, except the curtain, not a wall.
And it was dark too, so no one really. If you watch a video, you see this
Yep.
large object go.
But I'm standing there and I'm kind of looking down, all nervous, trying to remember everything, and all of a sudden Black's like, "Hey, did you see that?" Starts laughing. I'm like, "Oh yeah, very funny." Just look right back down, and
It was funny because, I've been doing it for so long, right behind the curtain, as they're starting to announce my name, I'm still me. And then as soon as I move the curtain open, then I'm a different person. So it's funny watching him, he's sitting there trying to, get ready for this experience. And I'm cracking up, pointing at the curtain, laughing. Ken Pernicus has a thing for brioche buns. So I'm yelling brioche buns through the curtain. And the hipster stands just like stoic while all this comedy is taking place.
Yeah.
So before we shoot the Blackjack, the way this all started out, I showed up the show before in Fremont, Ohio, where this Blackjack Phoenix legitimately could run for mayor, and he would get every single person in the town to vote for him. That's how amazingly they love this man. And I threw powder in his face and cost him the shot at the live pro wrestling title, I believe it was called. So, which, by the way, I had a lot of powder. I made sure there was powder everywhere. So they brought me back, and I brought my man, the hip shirt man, to take on Blackjack. And the music hits. It's what was it? It's Horse Pills by
Dandy Warhols.
The Dandy Warhols.
Yeah.
I thought so. Wow. And I trip on. I got my glasses on. I got a satin jacket. It cost me a lot of money. I didn't know how serious this thing was. Like, it's lined. Like, you could wear it in public. I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for something a little less. So I'm already sweating bullet. Like, just, it's like got a roll line. I'm sweating. It's purple and gold and white. I look phenomenal. I come to the thing. I trip. I get back up. One person in the audience says I tripped. Look, he fell. And then so I get in the ring. I bring out Dean, and here comes Blackjack. And they're like, he comes out to save a horse, ride a cowboy. So these fans are like, there might, I don't know, 200 people in there? Might well have been 2,000 people.
200.
And we just put on a phenomenal show. Like, of course, everybody's like, oh, Dean, he's so tiny. But, this man's a technical warlock, I actually called him that night. And he went out there and did his best against Blackjack. And we just put on a heck of a show, and it was something else because there's no barricades in Ohio, so the fans are like behind me. There's some lady, 4 bills as she was announced. She's calling me Fluffy Marshmallow, but I just look at her and I'm like, I'm gonna say something. I'm like, God's already said something about you.
Fantastic.
So it was.
That wasn't part of the show.
No. If I'm a fluffy marshmallow, then you're just a large bowl of fluff and utter, lady, because you are something else.
Oh my, fantastic.
I haven't had my first match.
You haven't had your first match yet. What are your thoughts going into it?
It gets me pumped every time I'm thinking of it. I get excited and just going out and going to abandoned haunted places gets me excited. But
That's where we filmed his vignettes. We filmed all his vignettes in abandoned haunted places, building up his character for when he.
Fantastic.
But me just thinking of getting in that ring gets me so excited.
Wow.
To be out there in front of a crowd of people and show them who I really am.
Until the day he actually gets out there and he
And
freezes.
then, I'll probably
He's gonna have to have me in the ring going, will you
It's when you take both hands and you go, you're going.
right
out
at
there.
the same time, I slam him upside the head. Like, hey, this is actually happening.
The bell rang.
5 minutes ago. How do you handle somebody going into their first match? What do
I
you?
actually love that stuff, especially with the guys that I bring in because I train them and they're friends and I love them.
Yeah.
But I like doing that. I will go to any town and do any part of the show you need. You need a heel that gets beat up by the good guy real quick, boom, done. You need a good guy that goes out there, gets everybody behind him, and then gets screwed by the bad guy. I love it. You give me a brand new guy, I'll teach him what to do right in the ring. I've done it. In the middle of a battle royal, some guy was throwing crappy ass punches at me, and I stopped, threw him in the corner, gave him one, and then explained to him how to punch me. And then said, grab me by the back of the head and spin me around. And he did. And I said, now do it. And he started punching me. I'm like, no, a little closer, a little tighter, a little looser. And the guy was laughing in the back. He's like, you gave me a training session in the middle of a battle royal in front of a crowd. And they didn't even know. I'm like, I enjoy that. I mean, I don't put all the years into it and just want to just go out there and do something and get out.
Yes.
I love stuff like that.
Speaking of battle royals, there was like the second match I had where I managed just not only Dean but also the Creative Genius. One of the guys, I saved Dean from getting thrown out, and I had some uppercut pomade in my hair, and I took a stomp from Tim Warner Jr., and there was literally like a footprint in my head. I thought you guys enjoyed that.
Oh, fantastic.
Can we talk about their first experiences now?
Okay, I'm going to give them the
From this
floor.
vantage point?
Go ahead.
Thank
right
you.
there.
Thank you. All right. Well, Ken's first experience that I can remember was when he had to throw the powder in my face, which he did phenomenally. However, when I grabbed him out, Ken has an acting background, so you'd think that he would see somebody my size, who I'm a classically trained actor as well. I grabbed him, and in the moment, you could not have told that I was a performer performing a show. You would have thought I was trying to kill him, because that's what I do.
Right.
The look in his face was hysterical, because for a minute he thought, wait a minute, does he really hate me or something?
There was a little part of me going, oh.
And anybody in acting will know that when they're working with somebody and you're playing a character so well that where the other person goes like that, and he just, the whole look, I grabbed him, he froze. And I'm like, here's your work, calm down. So then I'm grabbing him, I'm yelling at him, I'm asking the crowd what I should do, and he took the powder out and he threw it. And there's no mistake of his, my own mistake. For some reason, as he was throwing it, I was wrestling that, I was winded, fat. I took the deepest breath right as he was throwing the powder.
Oh, no.
I had talcum powder caked in my lungs. I remember laying on the mat after losing the match, thinking to myself, is this how I'm gonna die? Because I could feel the coating in the back of my throat, up in my sinuses, and I could feel it in my lungs. It was like pancakes in my lung of talking about it. But he did great, and then he did a battle royal where he did this bit where they kept trying to throw Dean Richter out. He'd catch him and throw him back in and turn him. And then they throw him out again, and he'd catch him and throw him back in. What happened? And then he's done other things since then. It's phenomenal work outside the ring as the manager, getting the heat up,
Right.
doing the good bits, entertaining.
Right.
Very, very good. The Hipster Hitman's match with Blackjack Phoenix, it wasn't hard to get heat because they knew he was wrestling me. And in that town, you could put like whoever the most popular man in the world is out there, and they will boo him.
Right.
When I come out, for some reason, that town just.
Like it could be Cena Phoenix, and it'd be a Phoenix town.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. But we just went out there. I would have liked to have given him for his first match a different kind of match.
Right.
But I'm big and I'm
Right.
older. You know, I can't do the same things he does.
Right.
So I had him go out there, and I pretty much taught him how to work a match with a bigger guy. Instead of going out there and having the 5-star wrestling spectacular, which I've seen him do in training sessions, and a lot of people haven't had the pleasure of seeing yet, but they will when they see his technical wrestling. I obviously couldn't do that. It would look ridiculous to somebody my size and his size. But, you know, he looks like a smaller stature person now, but when you get him in his trunks and you get him in character and he's out there, and the way he fights, you lose sight of the fact that he's under 200 pounds. He fights like somebody who's 280.
Right.
And when he was beating me up, it was believable because of the way his aggression, the way he fights, the way he hits you. It's believable.
Right.
And it's very good. And, you know, pretty soon, hopefully, you'll see the 5-star spectaculars that he has the capability of doing, but that wasn't going to happen with me.
How much of pro wrestling is making it believable? Isn't it about the unbelievable too? I mean, and I'll give you an example. Finn Balor and say Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
Finn Balor beating Brock Lesnar doesn't sound believable.
No.
But isn't pro wrestling about the unbelievable too?
Yeah, if it's done right.
Yeah.
If Finn Balor just goes out there and goes toe-to-toe with,
Yeah.
you know, Brock Lesnar, and then he just pins him after
Right.
a finish move, no. It's not. But if he gets his ass kicked and keeps using some kind of psychology
Right.
to tell a story around the size difference, and then somehow pulls something out of his ass, and boom, that's unbelievable and shocking, and what a great job, and you get the
Right.
pop.
I'll give you a good example of how I would
But
relate.
real quick though, before, the hipster man doesn't need to do that. Because the way he fights, you'd actually believe that he's the same size as a bigger guy. It's the weirdest thing.
And we say that every time we edit
It's a
matches.
It's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing you'll ever see.
Wow.
It can't be explained. It's
But
or
an
you try.
example of, I would say that yes, the unbelievable can happen, but you have to make the unbelievable believable. Great example: Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard boxing match. Leonard beats him through technique. He's using the bolo punch, which wrestling fans know as a European uppercut. Roberto Duran legitimately had hands of stone. He could take your head off with an uppercut. But because Leonard kept using this bolo punch, he couldn't defend against it, and he gave up. Literally said, some people say he said no mas. Nobody knows what he really
He
said.
claims he never said that.
But
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
that's how you make it. So like when you go out there, like you don't. So if it was Finn Balor and Lesnar, if Balor's like out wrestling him, speeding around him, doing all the things just to tire him out, and then beats him, you just made the unbelievable believable.
Yeah, Brock's so exhausted
Right.
from trying to catch him the whole
It's,
time.
it's the whole, and I'm just going to show you where my
It's a
wrestling
story.
analogy. It's the Rockers and the Twin Towers, WrestleMania 5.
Awesome.
It's like the Rockers. Jesse Ventura is always like the Rockers have to use their speed to tire these guys out, and those are always great matches. Like you think that the Twin Towers couldn't keep up with the
And
Rockers.
all it is a story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's playing
It's
the
a set
roles,
story.
right? Yeah.
Oh, you're big. I'm not. Let's go. We already know what we have to do.
How much of pro wrestling is about is it more? This is about right now. Is it more about the performance or is it about the story?
Well, right.
Same thing.
Well,
Is it?
You're right. But,
It depends on how you break it down. It can be broken down a million different ways.
Right.
The performance should feed the story.
Right.
If I know of a story, if I'm going to wrestle a smaller guy, the best example, there's a guy locally wrestling at ESW. His name is Brandon Thurston. Great wrestler. Different size than me. And we had to wrestle a series of main events over a title. So it was hard because we know the story of big guy versus little guy. Works out better when the big guy's a heel.
Right.
I was a face, he was a heel.
Gotcha.
Now what do? So over the course of 4 matches, we literally racked our brains coming up with different ways of making that story believable. But we had to work our asses off
Right.
as 2 characters going against each other, different sizes, different. The story could have worked out easily if I was a heel
Right.
and he was a face, and we had 1 match. We could have done it and been out. We had to put 4 of them out, different ones. with the opposite psychology that usually goes into that story. But we did it. We put our heads together, and we pulled off four what I thought were really good matches,
Right.
with kind of a handicap against us
Right.
of having to come up with a story the opposite of the way it's normally told.
Gotcha.
And we did it. So the two feed each other is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ideally, I think the biggest thing is it's not so much that wrestling itself has changed, but that wrestling, the culture changed around wrestling. Like now with when the WWE whatever is a show, it's like because they're concentrating, their money comes from the TV, so they're concentrating on the TV shows. So what matters now is who can go out there and blow everybody out of the water with their match and their performance. Where before, when the house was the show was the big deal, it mattered. Oh, these guys beat them last time, so who's going to beat them this time? So it's like, ideally, like Blackjack said, pro wrestling should be a combination of the story and the performance, and. And it really, bottom line is as long as they're entertained. I mean, you can go out there and do 20 backflip, spinning pile driver, all this cool stuff. If the crowd isn't entertained, you fail. So that's the bottom line: entertain or get out of the ring, basically.
People would say, our match wasn't that good. We missed these two spots, but the crowd's rolling the whole time.
Exactly,
I'm
right.
like, listen, you perfectionist freak, we won. All right? The crowd's still chanting my name, or your name, or whoever's name. We're in the back, and you could hear them chanting it. So don't worry about your missing friggin' spot. I've encountered that a few times. It's what like I said, whatever the crowd, what gets them going is what counts.
Right, and like literally with Bud, like the thing from an outsider's perspective, I'm down on ringside and I'm filming all the matches with my partner Aaron, and Bud wrestles one match at a TV taping, and he goes away and does whatever. He comes back out for a second match. He got the crowd so into him the first match that he comes out, and before he's even announced, people are yelling, "Smoke him, Bud!" Like they got so into it. That's great, that's the whole thing. Is like, I think it's exactly like you're saying. I mean, at least from a storytelling standpoint, which is what I can understand, is that you get the crowd into it, your match is gonna look good because you're gonna have.
There's different crowds. The crowd that comes to see us, if we put on a 20-minute match that was all wrestling, we'd probably get booed out of that building.
Right.
But if you go across town to one of the other promotions, that crowd wants to see that same match.
Yes.
Our crowd wants to see Bud Good come out, pretend like he's not from Colorado, whatever, and they want to get into that and chant his name, and then see bop, and then a finish, an entrance and a finish. Other places you go, they want to see longer matches, like Ring of Honor type, the big matches and stuff like that. Our crowd, from what I've noticed, a lot of the guys have noticed, is it seems like they want to see the characters and the stories that are being told.
Right.
And there's different crowds everywhere.
Yeah.
Luckily, sometimes you get to a promotion where you have all of them in the same place, and you get to throw out some matches with wrestling, you get to throw out some characters.
Right.
You get to throw out, I'll go out there and hit somebody with a lariat, and the crowd will go crazy, and then that's it. But the best thing, we try to give them everything, but we notice a lot of the crowds we've had didn't seem to really care about the longer wrestling matches.
Right.
And the wrestling was good, but they were there to see Bud Good and yell, "Smoke him, Bud Good," or watch Fat Blackjack give a guy a lariat and watch his head go flying.
So so a lot of this is more like a style of the promotion.
Yes,
In
all
a
different
way.
promotions.
Right.
Like, I consider this a completely different product than other promotions,
Right.
Especially locally. There's great products, but they're different.
Right.
We're going for that old style, almost like a Southern wrestling type thing is what we're going for, which is completely different than if you go across town to ESW, which I love. It's always have a special place. I was their champion for a long time, but that's a different product than what we have.
Mm-hmm.
So me as a fan, I would want to go there and see that good run. There's such talented guys. The guys from Ring of Honor are there all the time, and I'd want to go there and see these guys.
Yeah.
But there's times I want to sit there, take my brain out of my head, and watch a pot farmer from Colorado punch a manager in a satin jacket's head off.
Oh, I love you, Kenny.
I know, I love you too, but no, seriously, Blackjack is right. We are like, if you want to use the pejorative, we are a wrestling promotion. We are that because that is what that's what people care about. They love when they cheer Bud Good. They're not just cheering some guy. They're cheering a man they love and they'd love to hang out with. They'd love to have him come over. Or when they boo me and Dean, they're like, we don't like these guys. He's a smart ass and this guy's a hipster and they're jerks, whatever. Or when that is emotion. That's not something you can just snap your fingers, get rid. Right. So that is real. That's real emotion. They don't like me and Dean. And you know what? That's fine with us because that means, whether we win or lose, they're going home happy. And again, it's kind of like almost every other performance act. You get a couple guys who are so caught up in the art of performance. Yes, I did the finger quotes there. That they lose the factor. Rich and I were, when I first met Rich, when we were acting together, we knew a guy. He was a great improviser, but he was so caught up in the technical side of it, he missed the entertainment side completely, and his show ended up closing. But so you got to keep in mind if it doesn't matter if you go out there and the only maybe somebody just takes a body slam and a hip toss in your entire match, and the crowd is. Your 200 people crowd sounds like it's 2,000 people. Congratulations. You just did the best you could and be happy. Don't be sad.
The loudest matches on the card, if I've had them, I've maybe done one or two moves, maybe taken one. In 15 minutes. I've taken one bump, and the other guy took two.
Right.
And we got a louder reaction than guys doing, all kinds of crazy things. But there are places you go where the crowd goes nuts for that.
Right.
And they'll enjoy what we do. Oh, that was great. That was funny. Yeah, he hit his head rolled off. I'll bring back out the wrestling. It's different crowds.
Right.
You just have to go what we got. I mean, we have a steady crowd that comes, a solid group of fans that come, and they seem to prefer the other side. We can give them that. Dean Richter, Tommy Lawrence, Dutch, these guys can do those matches. 20 minutes and technically sound perfect 5-star wrestling matches. Bud Good and I are never going to be on Ring of Honor, ever. We're never going to have those types of matches, but we're going to get a very loud reaction from a story that we would tell, putting character against character, putting a story together, using psychology.
And here's another thing we just learned, having done an outdoor show recently. That requires a different style of wrestling too, because in a closed space there's so much. The noise is different, the sounds are different. When you're out there, the sound just goes up. So they want something different. You have to give them something different. So it's just not the crowd; it's the place you're in. It's everything. It's so much more complicated.
None of this happens in a vacuum. You have to be.
Yeah.
There's an ambiance to it. Yeah. If you bring a girl into an outhouse, you're not going to romance her.
Yeah. It's like you got to learn. You got to.
If the lights are down, and there's a spotlight in the middle of the ring, and there's a nice fancy entrance, and there's a guy coming out that's real big, guess what? You're going to hook him.
Right.
But if you're in the middle of an outhouse and you come out, looking like crap, you're not going to get it.
It's just like you have to read the crowd. I mean, Jim Cornette talks about Dennis Condrey. Be like, oh, the crowd wants to laugh tonight. Or the crowd wants to see nothing but heat. And you got to adapt to that. You have to be able to go, okay, they want to laugh, so we're going to do all this stuff, and you're going to run into him, and you're going to hit him, and we're going to do the ref boxing, and then, nope. They want heat, so you're just going to grab Tommy Lawrence, and you're just going to beat on him till he looks like he's dead. And that's
Which kind of happened the last time.
The last one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about inspirations here a little bit. Let's start with Blackjack. Tell us about the guy that got you hooked into this business.
I came around just before Hulkamania.
Ooh.
So that's really what got me hooked.
Wow.
I watched it before that. I guess regularly. I mean, I watched it.
Right.
This is neat.
Right.
Like the Soul Patrol was around. And they were awesome.
Yeah.
The Rock's dad and
Rocky
Tony
Johnson.
Atlas.
Yeah.
And I love those guys. And I was a big Sergeant Slaughter fan.
Yeah.
An awesome Sergeant Slaughter story for someday that we'll tell eventually. But I love Sergeant Slaughter and the Soul Patrol, which I think Sergeant Slaughter was even a heel then. Nobody understood why I liked him. He's the bad guy. I'm like, I don't care. He has a hat. But and then once Hulkamania came in, I remember seeing him debut. It was at one of those, the old Allentown set with the TV. I think Bob Backlund called him out, and the Samoans were in the ring, but I didn't know what a Samoan was. I just saw these big guys with big, crazy hair, and I was 5 years old.
Right.
Eating raw chicken.
They came out, and the way Hulk Hogan just grabbed the ropes and pointed at him, And then the way they all sold, with their big hair and everything,
And you're like, yep.
passionate fan at that point.
Yeah.
I went from being, wrestling's on, that's cool. I like Sergeant Slaughter, to being, holy shit, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. I know I'm 5, but this is what I'm going to do. And I ate it, I breathed it, and I slept it every day since that day.
Wow.
Because Hulk Hogan had that charisma to make a passionate fan like that.
Yes, he did.
And then he did.
Bud?
Well, I kind of guess the same story. I came in right before Hulkamania myself, but the weird thing is, I kind of always liked the bad guys more, like growing up as a kid and whatnot. I mean, sometimes I still do, but
No, I didn't learn to like him until later.
yeah, just I don't know what it was. Like I
I
always,
appreciated him, man.
yeah, like always fight with all my friends when I was a kid and everything else because I liked the Andre the Giant and everyone else wanted Hogan to win at WrestleMania 3. Stupid stuff like that. But yeah, it's just I've always just followed it my whole life. I can't pick one specific guy that inspired me. Just the entire process of it, I guess, just wrestling itself.
Cool.
The one match that got me hooked and a fan for life was Bret Hart and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13.
Okay.
No, that was a story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They pulled off the most perfect double turn that's ever been done, and just the story and everything. Because I remember I watched, a little wrestling before that, and I had friends who after school would go to the Boys and Girls Club. And I went with them one day, and someone had the tape, and we watched it, and I was like, holy crap. Like, I was the little kid, I was like, whoa. And then, so yeah, pretty much Stone Cold and Bret Hart from like that point on.
Wow.
That was a phenomenal man.
Yes, it was.
So for me, there are just two phases. The first, when I was around Jake Roberts doing the thing with Macho Man,
Yep.
like, oh my God, a man just got bit by a cobra. A cobra! Son of a bitch! Right? And Jake Roberts was just so psychological, and he's like, even slapping Elizabeth and all that kind of stuff, which I saw, but I don't remember. Which I know I saw, like, holy cow, and Jake Roberts was just like, he was the first villain, like, I felt like I understood why he was a villain. He wasn't just a villain to be bad and evil. He felt he was justified in what he was doing. And that, but then come around when I started watching wrestling again, the guys who got me back into it, I loved everybody. I loved the managers, Bobby. Okay, listen, it's kind of like movie directors, right? If you talk about them, there's Spielberg, then you can talk about everybody else. Same thing. There's Bobby Heenan, there's Jimmy Hart, then we can talk about Cornette and Paul Heyman and all those other guys. But when I came back to wrestling, it was Chris Hero, Claudio Castagnoli. And when I saw Hero out there, kind of a fat guy, doing these things and I didn't want to like Hero at first. I loved Claudio, but I didn't want to like Hero. But then I'm like, I love Hero, I really like him. And those guys brought me back. And even guys like Danny Doring and Roadkill, they brought me back because they were wrestling a tag team style that was so old school Midnight Express thing. So all my inspiration, my love came from different guys, and my inspiration has come from different guys. And right now, if you ask me what's the best thing I ever saw, it's Jim Cornette, Midnight Express. Any of that run is amazing, and it's just wow. And all those guys, there's just so many guys who did it so well and did it right. And no one's gonna make, and I love Jake Roberts, and no disrespect, no one's gonna mistake him for Dan O'Brien in terms of what he did in the ring.
No, not at all.
But he didn't have to. He sat there, he talked, and he's like, this is not the beginning of the end. It's not even and he's like, it's the end of the beginning, and that's
Did you ever see that promo in Vegas where he was drunk and on drugs and he still got a better promo than anybody else?
You know what?
It didn't even make any sense, but it was still awesome. Did you ever see that?
He was one of those few guys that when he spoke, he believed what he was saying, but may not have known what the heck he was talking about.
He didn't know what he was saying. He made you think.
And,
Exactly.
it shows
You get a different appreciation and inspiration from when you're a fan.
Yeah.
And then once you get into it, you learn what a work is.
And
Yep.
it's
Then you all of a sudden, Roddy Piper, who I hated my entire life, became the #1 man to ever walk the face of the earth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hated him.
Right.
I hated him. And then I learned how to work him. This man is the greatest ever.
Ever.
So it's different.
Here's a great example, though, of how, things work. The feud that really hooked me as a kid was 95, Diamond Dallas Page, Johnny B. Bad for the TV title. #1 TV title, awesome title name. And like Johnny B. Bad, great guy. Mark Maron was a really nice guy. Blackjack's told me about him. Everything I know about him is a really nice guy. But no one's gonna say he's a good worker. For a guy who didn't want to be a wrestler, he became a great worker. And then you have Diamond Dallas Page, who's amazing, right? Who became the DDP, right? But he wasn't there yet. And their little feud, just like, oh my God, I was so into the fact that Diamond Dallas Page would slice Johnny B. Bad's tires. And like, oh my God, why are they doing this? And then they're fighting over Kimberly, and it's like, oh my God.
Like, I wish I could have been a young fan where I didn't know what was going on.
Oh my God, there's
this.
this.
Kenny's talking about this. I mean, could you imagine, like, when I was young and still fully 1,000% believe, I mean, I still believed it when I was in wrestling.
Right, yeah.
I was still like, whoa, you guys aren't really good. But, I mean, I wish to God I could have seen the era that Kenny keeps talking about as the younger fan.
Right.
That was still mind blowing over everything. Because when I was there, it was still wrestling.